All right, so what is leasing again? Leasing is basically a long-term rental. I'm just gonna refer to you. Did we fill this in page 48, advantages and disadvantages of leasing? Yes, okay. You gotta have a few on your study sheet. More importantly, you want to have the formulas on page 46. You wanna have a big heading called leasing under vehicle finance. And then you want to have all these formulas on there. But please don't, guys, I'm begging you, please don't just copy down the formula and have no explanation as to what it does. When exam time comes, students take like whatever formula they think, just like try it, and it's not answering what you're supposed to answer. So make sure you know what it's doing, okay? I'm always hesitant to give formulas because sometimes students just, oh, times 1.12. Wait a minute, did the question say calculate the total payments including taxes? Then you would have to do that. Or does it ask before taxes, right? So you have to know when to use it and which parts to omit, okay? All right. Question, example 3, Sean is turning in his leased car. The question only deals with mileage and repairs, by the way, okay? The lease says that he can drive 40,000 kilometers. I'm going to highlight that one. One thing I want you to note here, does it say 40,000 per year or does it say 40,000 period? It's just 40,000, right? That's like all you can drive in your lease, okay? If you go over, you pay 10 cents per kilometers for anything that you go over. He actually drove, right? The actual amount you drove is 44,000. It is very clear that in this case you've gone over your max. He also has to pay $535 for paint and body repairs, $75 to fix the chip in the windshield. What is the total cost for the additional charges? So in this case, all you have to do is you're going to go kilometers over or something like that, over limit. You just go 44,237 minus 40,000. We can do some mental math there. You drove 4,237 kilometers past your limit. And now we're going to do the mileage costs. Would be 4,237 kilometers multiplied by the 10 cents, right? And that is what? That's $423.70 extra. What else? What do we call everything else there? What would we call that in general? Like when we did the new car or the used, we used parts and labor? Yeah? You were going to say that? Okay. Parts and labor, exactly. I'm going to put this into parts and labor. Do you remember what we tax parts and labor? Percentage-wise? 12%. If you ever draw a blank, you go back to, it's like, I wonder what materials and labor would be taxed. You pay PST and GST. RST, by the way, RST. So 7 and 5, you pay the 12%. So I'm just going to go 535 plus 75. I'm going to add those up. And this gives you $610 for parts and labor. Since everything is taxed 12%, guys, I'm waiting until the very end. So total would be $423.70 plus $610. That would be $474.54. That's before tax. So if I want the tax, right, I'm going to multiply it by 1.12. 531.48. Oh, what happened there? I made a mistake, my bad. This can't be, right? This has to be 1,000 and something, my bad. Seriously, messing up my notes, Mr. Dirksen. How can you not notice that, right? No way. There we go. I think now we're 1,033.70. Ken, is that good? Because you were wondering what happened here, right? I think I heard you at least wondering what's happening there. So then we multiply that by 1.12. And now we get our total after tax, 1157.74. This is including tax. That's another way of wording. The wording used is that this thing includes taxes, right? You've done the work and you've made sure that happens. And your final answer needs a dollar amount. Okay. So let's try. I'm going to get you to try a few. I'm going to try a few here. I want you to try example 5 on page 52 here. I will give you the answer so that as you're working, you have an idea of whether or not you're doing this right. At least the first 2 questions I will give you. There you go, the first 3. So that's kind of what you're aiming for. So give it a start, and if you are done, I did assign some questions that some of you started. They went from 54 all the way to 56. Okay, don't just be idling there. Let's see. You want to go to 54, 56. If you haven't added any formulas to your study sheet, that's what you want to do as well. You want to do that today before the AC comes your way, okay? We're not quite sure what to do, so let's see here. So if you're not sure what to do, just follow along here, okay? Ready? So here it is. Brad is about to return his lease truck. Okay, we've got the MSRP for $35,000 before taxes. The contract mentioned the following. It's a 48-month lease. You pay $375 plus tax, right? So if it says it like that, you have to add taxes to it at one point. If it said, pay attention, if it said including tax, that would mean that the $375 already has taxes in it. So you wouldn't have to add taxes again. So you got to watch out for the wording. There's a $5,000 down payment. The residual value is 65%. What is that? That's just saying when you're done, the residue, right? What's left over, what's left to pay is 65% of whatever it was brand new. It used to be 100%, now it's only 65% of what it was brand new. The lease allows for 20,000, I'm going to use a different color for that one, 20,000 kilometers per year. Watch this, it says per year, it's not just 20,000 kilometers altogether for every year that you're leasing. And then 11 cents thereafter. So here we go. What's the mileage charge here? So what I would say is allowance or limit would be 4 years. Where did I get 4 years from? 48 months, right? So if you need to write that down, That's the 4 years. 4 years times 20,000 kilometers. So how much is allowed overall? 80,000. Most of the time, you can do a lot of mental math under these sections here. So 80,000 is my allowance. Am I over? Absolutely, I am over. I know that. I can see it. So how much are you over? You go 92,350 kilometers minus the 80,000, right? This is what you actually drove. So there's 12,350 kilometers past the limit. And now is the cost. Okay? We've got 12,350. So for every single kilometer that you went over the limit, you're going to pay 11 cents. Okay, 11 cents. And I'm going to tax it right off the bat. Okay? So 12,350 times 11 cents. And I'm going to add taxes to it. So I'm going to multiply by 1.12. So this is the mileage cost. The mileage cost for this particular lease, right? In this case. If you hadn't gone over the 80, none of this would have been incurred. None of this would have happened, okay? So that's mileage. This could have been it for this question, but there's more. Determine the total cost of the lease itself plus tax. So you're going to have to add taxes. What is the total cost? It is normally the down payment plus all the payments you've made combined over the 4 years, plus any mileage if it's there. I will do the total payments on the side here. I'm going to have a little heading here, total payments. Maybe I can fit that in there. So what is it, 375 times 24 months? No, sorry, it's 48, right? Times 48 months. And I'm going to tax it. You have to tax your payments in this case because it does say plus tax. So just take your calculator, you go 375 times 48 times 1.12, and that's 20,160 altogether. So all the payments combined over 4 years amount to 20,160. So now I can come back here, my down payment, if there is one, and in this case there's a $5,000 down payment, never tax the down payment, okay? Then you add the total payments you've made, and in this case we've already taken care of the mileage cost, you add that as well. So these three components are all there and they all need to be added up together. And that's where you get your 26,681.52 cents. Okay? All right, the test is coming up next Tuesday, so these things are all going to be on there, okay? What's the residual value plus tax? Okay? What do we call that as residual value? If it says plus tax, there's a word, there's two words that we use for it. Buyout. It's the buyout really that they want. You just have to be comfortable with that term. That's residual value times 1.12. What is the residual value? It is the price when it's brand new. Not now. Times 65%, which is 0.65. It's 22,750 that you're now going to owe if you wanted to buy it, this is how much is left out of the 35,000. This is just the residual value, no taxes added. So we put that residual value in here, and you got to multiply that by 1.12. It's always going to be purchased from a dealer, right? Leasing happens, a dealership offers a lease, so that's why 12% tax. Yeah. Go ahead. And so this would be 25,480. Calculate the cost to lease and purchase outright. So what do we do there? You just added the 26,681.52. It's the lease, and you purchasing it. So you got to combine. That's all money that you will have spent on this all together, which is a big number, 52,161.52. That's a lot of money. All right. I think at this point, yeah, we'll do the AC unless there are any questions. Unless there are any questions. Okay. All right. Just remember, if you want more help, if you want to work through this, 54 to 56 is your place to go for that.